Hey, how's it going? So today's video is just going to be a nice chill chalk art video, and as we go along I'll kind of explain what I'm doing so you can try doing some cool chalk art yourself if you're interested. I really enjoyed drawing with chalk outside during this quarantine. It's a good way to get outside and actually do something instead of just staying inside all day. So to start off with, I'm just gonna take some smaller chalk pastels and sketch out the design that I want to do. I am referencing a picture on my phone just to make things easier because it's kind of hard to just freehand a big drawing like this. So here's me doing that, and I'm gonna be doing a turtle today. My brother requested I do this one, so here you go. And then once we get into the actual coloring, I'm just gonna be using normal Sidewalk Chalk. I'll link in the description below the kit that I got from Amazon. I'll link a chalk pastel kit in the description as well. Now that my sketch is done, I'm gonna go ahead and start coloring. So I'm gonna use this like muted green for the skin tones of the turtle. And I am trying to get as much pigment down there as I can because the ground here is kind of rough. And you may notice it's kind of discolored and splotchy for some reason. I don't know why our cement's like that, but that's what I've got to work with. And it doesn't really affect the final outcome, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'm making sure that I get as much down there as I can so that when I start blending with my fingers, it doesn't look patchy and there's enough pigment to spread around and make a nice even color. And then after I finish spreading all that out with my fingers and making sure I fill in areas that need a little bit more, I'm just going to go ahead and blow away any of the excess dust so that it's not getting in the way or causing problems later on by mixing with colors I don't want it to. I'm being very careful to make sure I get all the way to the edge and blend out as best I can. Now I'm going to go ahead and start filling in his arms and anywhere else that just has this skin color. And you can see that I've really messily sketched this out. So I'm just gonna be going over some lines that I don't like and filling in where I do. It's really important for this step that you get everything as smooth as you possibly can. Make sure you blend out everything because it's gonna affect the final drawing if you don't take your time here. So now that I have all of that blended out, I'm going to go ahead and start on some of the other details. So I'll start with like the outer rim of the shell here, using a different colored green. And I did kind of mess up there a little bit, so I just took a wet rag to kind of wipe it off and hope that it would go away. Now I'm going to go into the shell itself with like a darker green. And I'm just going to fill in each of those squares individually, making sure I leave room so I can still see the pattern underneath because I'll be filling in the lines there with black later on, doing the line work. I didn't start out doing the line work because I wanted to be able to blend everything without getting the black smeared in there, so you kind of have to do that at the end instead of the beginning like you normally would on a piece of paper. So my sister told me I should tell a turtle related story during this part so that you guys don't get bored. So one time my family and I were at the zoo and we were walking by the turtle enclosure, and I looked down in the grass next to the enclosure and there's just two turtles about the size of my hand just like booking it as fast as turtles can, running away from their enclosure. So we're like, what do we do here? So I think what we ended up doing was we had a few of us stay to watch the turtles to make sure they didn't get in any trouble while someone went to find someone who worked there. And when they finally found someone, brought him back, he just like picked them up and put them back in the enclosure. So that was a fun experience. I hope that they fixed the problem so that they can't escape anymore. I'm sure they did, but it was kind of like, I don't know, it was a little bit concerning that the turtles were able to escape. And they got pretty far too for how little they were. They were like 10 feet away from the enclosure, so you know, that's cool. But anyways, back to the video. Now I'm gonna outline everything with black pastels. Yeah, so I'm just going through and outlining every individual piece that I want to be distinct and stand out. The shell takes the longest for sure. And I did miss a piece up there, but don't worry, I'll get it later on. Now I'm going to go ahead and start blending out the shell. The reason I outlined it first and then blended is because I didn't want to lose my lines there. And I made the mistake there of blowing on it before I'd finished spreading out all the pigments. Luckily it was okay this time. But I highly recommend you blend first and then blow away all the dust. Otherwise you might lose the pigment and not be able to, you might have to go over it again, and that just kind of wastes more chalk than you need to. Because you do go through the chalk fairly quickly, especially if your ground's kind of rough, which mine is, so it kind of scrapes off more chalk when you color with it. So just be aware of that. And now this is my favorite part, where everything really starts coming together when I start blending in the outline. It just makes it so much crisper and clearer what's happening, and it's really fun to watch, let's be honest. So now that I've got everything blended out, I'm going to start adding a few more details to the turtle here. So I'm going to try and make like different spots on the shell a little bit brighter. It takes a lot of pigment to do this though, so the amount I put here doesn't really help, but I eventually layer up enough that you can kind of see that detail there. Then I decided to add some little like freckles on the turtle just to give it a little more personality, you know. And with these, I was careful to like only blend where I want them. I didn't blend them all the way out because then they kind of would have just gotten lost. And then after I was happy with their shape, I just blew off the rest of it so that it wasn't causing problems later on. I decided that the eyes were kind of a little soulless, so I decided to outline them with some more black just to give them a little more character. And then I took my white chalk and pressed really hard on it to get the color off of there so that I could give them little highlights in his eyes. And then I kind of just tapped on it to make sure that it didn't just blow away. And then I gave him some little rosy cheeks. And then I decided to do some more shading, so I added some white to his head and to his fins and to the top of his shell and to the top of some of those spots in there. Blended that out, and I did have to go back in a few times to be able to get this white to really show up. But you kind of just have to play with it and, you know, keep going back and forth with different colors until you're happy with what you got there. I pressed a lot harder this time so that you could see it a lot better. Then I added some black to the bottoms of things just to give it a little more contrast. Just going back in, trying to make those highlights a little bit stronger. And there it is. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it's so cute. And it was pretty easy to do. I think that anyone can really do this. They just need the tools and the knowledge to learn how to blend it properly and stuff. But yeah, if you want to try doing some chalk art like this, I do have an Instagram. It's Somewhat Artistic Human. It's linked below in the description, and it's linked to my channel. So if you do try and do some chalk art like this, I would appreciate if you tagged me in it so I can see what you guys create. And if you enjoyed this content and want to see more like this, I do have a few more chalk arts planned in the future. Appreciate if you subscribed and turn on notifications so you know when I post. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.